I figured I'd give you guys a little update on the Goodyear Duratrac tires that I have on my 4Runner. So I've been running these for, I've got about, I want to say 25,000 kilometers on them. I don't know what that is in miles. I guess I should probably tell you about the actual setup here. These are 285/70/17s, and I've got them on a set of 17 by 8.5 inch method standards, and they're a zero offset. And as far as what I had to do to get these to fit, this works out to be close to a 33-inch tire. But as far as the trimming and all that stuff, I have a separate video on that. You can go ahead and check that out. This is just kind of an update on how the tires are holding up right now. If you aren't already familiar, this is my gas-guzzling pig. It's a 2007 V8 4Runner. And because it's a V8, that means that it's full-time all-wheel drive. And I gotta say, I do a pretty equal mixture of both city and highway driving. I don't do a whole lot of off-roading, to be honest, but it does see a lot of gravel roads and stuff like that, and also a lot of winter driving as well. And this is actually my second set of these tires. I had a set on my Jeep Grand Cherokee that I had before the 4Runner, and those were in a much smaller size. Those were only 245/70/17s, which I believe is about a 31-inch tire. So I guess we might as well start with off-road performance. Obviously they're not as good as like a dedicated mud tire or anything, but considering this is, I don't really consider them like a straight all-terrain tire. I think this is more of like a hybrid tire, kind of in between an all-terrain and a mud terrain. And so even though they're not as good as a mud tire off-road, they perform really well. And in the, however long it's been, I guess 4 or 5 years that I've had them, I've never had a puncture or anything in these. As far as the strength of the sidewall and everything, they've held up. They've been really strong for me. One thing, if you do happen to care about the condition of your paint and stone chips and stuff, just like any other off-road tire, these things will definitely grab onto stones and pebbles and like even a good-sized rock, and they'll grab onto them and hold them for a bit and then throw them back up at the vehicle. And so I've definitely got some fresh stone chips in usually on the inner fender area. But I definitely have a few that are thanks to these tires for sure. Now as far as the on-road performance goes, I gotta say that the ride is very smooth with these tires. They're very comfortable. Handling is decent. Uh-oh, there's a cop.
You'd keep your mouth shut if you knew it was good for you, buddy. Tic-tac, sir?
Sorry, I had to put you guys down there for a second. There was a cop sitting on the side of the road. I don't think he'd be a fan of me driving and filming. Anyways, yeah, handling is decent for an off-road tire. And again, because of the size that I'm running, I'm running a smaller wheel, like a 17-inch wheel. These limited 4Runners come with an 18. So I do have a taller sidewall, so there is a bit of squirm. But I can't really blame the tires too much. This is, I mean, it's also lifted. I'm running the stock sway bars and everything, so I think some of that could be in the suspension. And just the fact that it is a taller SUV, so it definitely doesn't handle like a sports car. But it does drive really nicely on the road with these tires. As for driving in the rain, no problems with these either. Some people have asked me about that. I've never had any hydroplaning situations or anything like that ever with these. They're very sure-footed in the rain. Probably unlike a mud terrain tire. I think it's because of the siping in these that the reason why they're so good in the wintertime also makes them a really good tire in the rain. What else about the on-road driving? Obviously my miles per gallon, my fuel economy has definitely taken a hit. These are really heavy tires. I'm going to assume they're at least 70-something pounds, at least. And so I have taken a hit in the fuel economy department. Performance-wise, of course, that'll suck up some power as well. Because of some of the other modifications on this specific 4Runner, they kind of make up for that, so it's not too big of a problem. But so far, the biggest downside to these tires is the noise. And I know the Duratrac is kind of a polarizing tire. Some people love them, some people hate them. A lot of people swear that they're just horribly noisy and they think that they're a really bad tire. I'm just telling you my own experience with them and what they've been like for me. So far, that's really the only downside. I mean, yeah, okay, the loss of mileage and performance, but that's to be expected with any larger off-road tire. They are noisy, and as they wear, they seem to get noisier. Now I know from filming past videos that the road noise in this thing with this microphone, it sounds worse than it is in real life in the video. So what you're hearing right now, you can definitely hear the tires howling. I don't know if I put the window down. You can hear just wind noise and nothing else. I don't know. But basically it does sound like a truck with off-road tires on it. You know? That's to be expected though for me. I would never expect this to sound perfectly quiet like a car with passenger car tires on it. It is a 4x4 with off-road, pretty beefy off-road tires. But yeah guys, to be totally honest, they are louder. Are they as loud as, say, like a full-out mud terrain tire? I don't think so. I don't think they're quite that bad. I think they're definitely quieter than a more aggressive tire would be. But when compared to even like the other all-terrain options out there, the more mild kind of tread design tires, these are definitely going to be louder. Now for the winter performance of these tires, that's one of my biggest draws to the Goodyear Duratrac still, and why I still think that this is one of the best tires for a year-round truck here in Canada that sees all 4 seasons. I still think they're really hard to beat. I know there's a lot of newer tires out there with newer technology and everything, but because of the winter performance, I think the Duratrac is still one of the leaders. Now, again, this is all just based on my experience, but compared to like a proper snow tire, they're not as good. But in contrast, compared to like a regular all-season tire, they're a lot better in the snow conditions and the ice and everything than like a regular all-season. And I noticed that when I was going back-to-back this winter, I was driving the 4Runner and the Tacoma back-to-back, and the Tacoma just had basic all-season tires on it. And everywhere I went, it was just roasting the tires, it was locking them up as soon as I hit the brakes, it wouldn't steer. And on the same day, in the same winter storm, I would hop in the 4Runner and it was so sure-footed, and it was really just an incredible difference. Again, not quite like putting a snow tire on it, but for something that you're able to leave on year-round, I think it's really hard to beat still. Obviously, because of the aggressive design of these, they excel in the deeper snow, as opposed to like the slush and like the icy roads. They kind of struggle in those conditions, and I think the size, like the actual tire size, plays a role there too. By the way, see the speed I'm doing right now, and there's just no shake in the steering wheel or anything. They're very well balanced still. I just want to show you guys the condition of these after 25,000 kilometers, just so you can see how they're holding up. As far as wear goes, they look really good. I haven't measured them, I don't have an actual gauge or anything, but they're wearing evenly. Mind you, I try to rotate these after every oil change. I don't stick to that completely, but I try my best. But yeah, they're wearing evenly. There's maybe a little bit of weather cracking between the treads. And because this thing does sit outside year-round, like all summer long, it's out in the heat. So I expect there to be some weather cracking, and it's really, I don't consider it bad at all. I had a set of Bridgestone Revos on my Grand Cherokee, and those things weather cracked so badly, really fast. These haven't been bad at all. Also, while we're updating, these Method wheels have been holding up really well as well. No real problems with the finish. I mean, they're dirty right now. Maybe throw some clips in when they're cleaned up. The satin black finish has been looking really good. I mean, for the most part, they look like they're brand new still. Even these bolts and everything are not corroded, not rusted. They look really good still. Keep in mind, I did ceramic coat these with G-Technic C5. I've done it twice now, and so it makes them a little easier to clean up, and it does protect the finish as well. But overall, I think the factory finish from Method is really good on these. The only downside I've seen so far with how these are holding up is I've got one center cap, but right around here, the finish is chipped off. I'm not sure why just the one center cap, but that's one point of failure basically on these Method wheels. That's all I've seen. This setup has been holding air perfectly. They leak no air at all, even throughout the different temperature changes. They balance, when they originally got mounted, they required a lot of weights to balance, which was a downside. I mean, I'm not sure if that's because of the wheels or because of the tires, but they definitely needed a lot of weight. That's the downside, but the good side is they've never needed anything ever since, and they've stayed true and balanced this entire time, and I've never had to have them rebalanced or anything so far. So yeah, that's the update on these Goodyear Duratracs. And yes, by the way, this thing does get dirty sometimes, believe it or not. Just because I do a lot of detailing on the channel doesn't mean this thing doesn't get used. I get a lot of questions about this kind of stuff, so I think I'm going to start doing, maybe making into a bit of a series of just updating some of the mods on this thing to tell you how they're holding up, and the things I like, the things I don't like. Just give you a bit of an update on everything. Just because this thing was already built before I started this channel, so you didn't really get to come along for the process of getting everything set up. So at least I can give you updates on how it's doing and what's lasting, what's not lasting, and give them kind of my opinion of these things after living with them for a while. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. See you.